good afternoon, and welcome to this session. India Food Institute, together with the Autónoma University of Madrid, organizes today this roundtable of women's leadership that is part of the European Will Eat Food program from EIT Food. This program, coordinated by the University of Cambridge, has been designed to create a network of women leaders who want to drive a change and make a difference within the food sector, and why this change is needed. In Europe, only 7% of the entrepreneurship activities are led by women. But in addition, in the food sector, besides the 60% of women are employed in the lowest positions, only 9% of them are in the highest position. So we want to think about this, and we want to make this roundtable to discuss these points and the presence of women in the food sector as leaders. And we are going to discuss it with excellent women leaders with different profiles in the field that I want to deeply thank for being here with us today. And well, in addition, I'm going to share my screen just for a moment, because I also wanted to put a challenge for you. That is just to send us a postcard. This roundtable is for you to reflect and for you to be inspired. So we would appreciate if you send us a postcard of your impressions, just what has inspired you. Feel free to use drawings, images, whatever that you feel that has inspired you this roundtable, and send it by email to this address that is here, and you can win a mentoring session with a women leader and also a surprise pack. So please, if you want, just share with us your impressions. And well, I also take this opportunity to thank the University of Madrid for their support, and especially Carmen Fernández Montraveta, Director of the Gender Equality at Universidad Autónoma de Madrid, who is going to chair the table today. So please, Carmen.
Thank you very much, Anna, and thanks to everyone who is involved in the organization of this roundtable for having thought of my unity. I'm the director of the Equality Unit in the Universidad Autónoma de Madrid since just February. And since then, I have been trying to fight and trying to find solutions of many problems we face every day. And as I was listening to you, I thought that your figures are so similar to the figures in our university that probably we confront the same kind of problems. And I'm sure that I learned a lot from these little women outstanding in their fields, and who can help us to find out how to fight and how to confront these barriers difficulting the access of women to high-level positions. In fact, in the Universidad Autónoma de Madrid, the percentage of students is about 68%. The percentage of teachers falls down to 44%. And when it comes to think of the high level positions, which are the full professors, it falls to only 22%. And right now, we have improved a little bit if we compare the situation with the past. So we are in the way, but the way is so slow that we're afraid that we'll never reach the end of this way. And I'm really happy to have the opportunity of listening at these four leader women. And first of all, I'll try to introduce, just summarizing the main factors that can be particular to any one of them. Marina Romarit will be our first speaker. She is the press officer at the European Parliament in Spain and project leader of Donde Están Ellas, which is an initiative aiming at increasing the participation of female experts in panels. She is a journalist and has a master's degree in governance and human rights, and has worked as a communication consultant for the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as at the European Parliament in Brussels. She also has the opportunity to work at the United Nations Women and to live a 6 months experience at the United Nations headquarters in New York. After her participation, we'll share our time with a second leader woman who will share her experience in technology for a more inclusive and sustainable agri-food sector. Her name is Gabriela Chang. She is the Chief Scientific Officer and co-founder of Ethic Hub, a startup focused on serving unbanked farmers through P2P crowdlending and giving access to direct markets. Gabriela is a member of AEFI and associate at FinTech Women Network. She was an organic coffee producer and worked in the Secretariat of Economic Development in Chiapas, Mexico. And moreover, she's a frequent speaker and panelist about the use of blockchain technology for impactful financial inclusion, sustainability, and SDGs. Our third speaker is called Carla Tanas. She is co-founder and managing partner of Industry Disruptors Game Changers. This is a non-for-profit organization empowering the youth towards innovation and entrepreneurship in Greece and abroad. She is also CEO of Future Agro Challenge, a global agri-food innovation platform to create a new generation of farmers and agripreneurs operating in over 64 countries. Carla is also Dean of the Institute at ACES Athens, a premier school empowering individuals to transform the world as architects of their own learning. On top of that, she is visiting lecturer in innovation and entrepreneurship at the Athens Medical School, part of the Global Entrepreneurship Network. TED's advocate and organizer and a member of the United Nations Committee of World Food Security, Private Sector Mechanisms, and Youth Council Advisory. And last but not least, we have a young women leader that may serve as an inspiration for young entrepreneurs. Her name is Maitane Alonso. She is a researcher and medicine student at University of Basque Country. She is also founder at Innovating Alimentary Machines, a company now working on a device she has developed that will become in the future a competitive and sustainable solution for food preservation, and got the second grant award in microbiology and the ASU Sustainability Award at the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair. The MIT will have an asteroid named after her. I think I shouldn't add any other thing and will go to listen to these outstanding women leaders. Is your time.
Hi, everybody. I am Marina Romarit, and as mentioned by Carmen, I work as a press officer at the European Parliament office in Spain, and I am the project leader of Donde Están Ellas. So my speech is going to be divided in three parts. The first part is about what the European Union is doing to promote female leadership and women's empowerment. The second part is about what we are doing at the European Parliament office in Spain, specifically, and then my personal experience. So let's start with what the European Union is doing to promote female leaderships and women empowerment. First of all, maybe some of you are familiar with the concept of gender mainstreaming. This means that the European Union, when making policies, we take into account the different impact that policies could have in women and men separately. This is called integrating a gender perspective in all policies. So, for example, we recently, the European Parliament recently adopted a resolution on gender equality in security and foreign policy. And this means that we do not only promote the women's rights and gender equality when cooperating with, when the European Union cooperates with other countries, but also promoting the participation of women in peace building and security and peace processes. And then there are also two very important rules that are going to be adopted during this legislature until 2024. One of them is about gender equality and women on boards. We have this rule with an objective of 40% of non-executive members of the underrepresented sex on boards, which are women. But this directive, this rule is actually, it's currently blocked at the Council, which is the European institution that represents the countries, the member states. And this is because some of these countries, 8 countries in total, some of these countries are against this directive because of ideological reasons, such as Poland and Hungary, as you can imagine. And also some of them are against the directive because they have already this kind of legislation, such as Sweden, for example. So the new European Commission and the German presidency of the Council are trying to unblock this directive so all the member states can adopt this legislation. The second very important rule that we are going to, or we are trying to adopt these years, the following 5 years, is the one regarding binding measures on pay transparency. And this means that all companies in the European Union will have to publish the salaries of their employees so we can come back together a gender pay gap. And finally, I will mention also a directive, a rule that we adopted last year on work-life balance and parental leave. And this directive, what involves is that all fathers in the European Union can have at least 4 months of parental leave, 2 of them non-transferable unpaid. So we can, promote this shared responsibility within couples. Now, the second part of my speech was about what we are doing at the European Parliament office in Spain. As mentioned by Carmen, we have this initiative called ¿Dónde están ellas? And ¿Dónde están ellas? Aims at increasing the participation of female experts in panels. So our objective is to, make female talent more visible in panels and in events, and also make sure that women always take the floor in all panels, in all discussions, in all debates. So we started and we launched this initiative in 2018. We were only 18 members, but now we are more than 125, including, like public organisms, universities, ministries, NGOs, embassies, so all kind of organizations. And the important thing is that every time an organization signs the manifesto and joins ¿Dónde están ellas?, they have to avoid always all male panels, and they have to make a record and register the number of female and male experts that participate in their events during the year. So they commit themselves to improve the number of female experts in their events for the next years. At the end of the year, we ask them to send us this data so we can publish a global percentage. And in the first year of the initiative, we got this percentage of 4 out of 10 speakers in the events organized by the members of ¿Dónde están ellas? Were men. So more or less like 40%. And now this year we got almost 50%, 48% of our speakers were female, were women. So, this proves that this initiative is being successful, is working. And also we have had, we won 4 awards because of this initiative, one very recently. And for me, the most important thing of this initiative is that it's not an abstract commitment. It's, it has a very measurable result and a very concrete change, a very concrete action. so we can, we can really change the situation in Spain at least. And for us, it's important because it's not only about forcing the companies to increase the participation of women in their panels, but also about changing mindsets and increasing the awareness within these organizations. Finally, I'm gonna say a little bit about my personal experience. I think what I have learned is that when we are growing up, we are told that there is only one kind of intelligence. And, and I think we judge us a lot because of that, but I don't think it's a thing of black and white. Either you are smart and either you are intelligent or you are not. Maybe there are many kinds of gray. And when I was preparing this speech, I watched this video on YouTube of this expert called Maitane Alonso, and he's a doctor and a fellow at Harvard University Medical School, and he talks about the theory of multiple intelligence. So the most important thing is not the IQ, the intelligent quotient, but that we feel that we are intelligent. So in my case, I spent many years working as a journalist for many media outlets and earning like €3 per month. So having these terrible schedules and changing from one job to another, and I finally got this permanent position at a company that I actually hated. So one day, very randomly, I applied for this internship at UN Women in New York, and I got it. So in 1 month I had to move to New York, and it was a very important decision for me because I was leaving everything, and it was an unpaid internship, and I was leaving a stable job in Spain. So actually my parents were against it because they thought it was a step back, but I finally convinced them and I moved to New York. And when I was there, I had the chance to meet these amazing people from all over the world with these wonderful backgrounds and experiences and stories. And I thought, okay, maybe I'm not as smart as them, as intelligent as them. But then I realized it doesn't matter because it got me there. And, my boss was very happy about me and I performed very well. And, for me, it was a very successful and very interesting experience. What I'm trying to say is that, I think we can have this kind of insecurities and this lack of confidence, and maybe it can affect especially women. And, there are many studies that say that from Forbes, from LinkedIn, that say that women, we only apply for jobs when we meet 100% of the job requirements, while in the case of men, they apply even though they have only 60% of the job requirements. And I think that is very unfair because we should also apply even though we have 60% of the job requirements. We don't have to be the most smartest and the smartest, the most intelligent, and the best candidate, because we are a good candidate as well, and we are good enough as well. So what I'm trying to say is that I think this applies for everything, and I have seen many women around me, young women, old women, other girls, that are always questioning themselves if they are good enough. Should I take this opportunity? Do I deserve this? Do I have all the requirements, all the qualifications for this job position? And I think the answer should be always yes. So, grab as many opportunities. I mean, this is my personal tip, my personal opinion, obviously, but I think this could be useful for you as well, as it is for me. Grab as many opportunities as you can. Always say yes to everything, even though you are afraid. And, I think the limit is only in our heads. So without this limit, we are unstoppable. So don't be afraid. This Dr. Maitane Alonso also said that the self-esteem is the key. So, for me, it's like if I could work at some of the best international organizations, you can do it as well. So if you or someone at some point of your life makes you think, or you think that you are not good enough, I would say that you are. And I'd say that you should answer to yourself, yes, I am. So from now on, let's start together, and I say this to myself as well. Let's start together to believe in ourselves, to believe in this idea, and give ourselves and give yourself the opportunity to demonstrate what a good leader you are. Thank you.
This is the time, this is the tone of Gabriela Chang, sorry.
Good morning. Let me start by saying thank you to the organizers of We Lead Food for making me part of it. And thank you all for being here today and sharing your precious time with us. I was invited to this panel because I'm a woman and because I'm leading my leading role at an agro-fintech focused on solving poverty and inequalities. But I'll come to that a bit later. Now, let me share with you how it all started. I was born in Mexico. I'm kind of hybrid between Mexican and Chinese. And for the last 14 years, I've called Spain my home too. I was a very lucky child because my parents raised me to believe I could do anything I want to be, as long as my commitment was as strong as my desire. And later, I was very lucky because I was able to attend the university and the career chosen by me, which is a great starting point in a professional life. But people shouldn't need to be lucky. We need to build societies where all of them get access to equal opportunities. I'm Gabriela Chang, co-founder of Ethic Hub. My wonderful team and I are proving that another economic system is possible, more inclusive, more sustainable, and of course, profitable. We connect small farmers from emerging economies with international lenders and direct buyers, creating value for all of them. Did you know that the best coffees in the world are grown by farmers who live in tiny houses with dirt floors and tin roof? And they can afford to keep savings to cover for unexpected events like getting sick? And who among us could if we had to pay over 100% interest for barely enough money to work? What if, on top of that, we had to underprice our crop because we live very far away, more than 2 hours walking from the first little road? The current financial system has left out almost a quarter of the world population, the unfamous unbanked, and most of them are small farmers. It is outrageous because food is more important than almost anything else. What we do at Ethic Hub is to open direct markets for this farmers' coffee and make possible for people on the other side of the world with savings in the bank hardly generating any interest to lend it to these farmers and get profits you can feel proud of because of the huge impact they generate. Our crowd-lending platform based on blockchain smart contracts has been awarded for impactful financial inclusion designed for development and social impact. We've been supported by the IDB Lab, the innovation branch of the Inter-American Development Bank, and we are recognized case of use for disruptive technologies to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, contributing to 9 of them. We started in Mexico with coffee, and to date, we have managed that over 600 people in Europe have used our platform to lend their money to 240 small coffee producers. They don't even know. And after 2 years operating, we are very proud of keeping a 0% default. That is, all of them paid back money plus interest, grateful for being supported. With more equitable sales prices, farmers easily pay back loans and can actively start to improve their living standards by increasing productivity and quality. Their lenders are happy to benefit while helping, and direct buyers are delighted with a high quality, sustainable, and traceable product. With Ethic Hub, we are all proud of our profits, and we aim to bring this solution to over 1 billion small farmers trapped in the poverty cycle, providing better opportunities for them and their tiny communities. Now anyone can help to change the world for these farmers. And although initially we are not strictly focused on women, my team and I are absolutely aware of the need to balance the world we live in. Not only because it is the right thing to do, but because it is more productive. When teams are integrated by mixed genders, the productivity increases. Something as simple as risk diversification. The same principle why inclusive groups are more productive than homogeneous ones. Diversity is an asset by itself, and we need to leverage on it. We hired female developers at Laboratoria, so now women within the team are almost half of it. We actively promote the farmers to include women in their solidarity groups because lenders are more willing to lend their money to inclusive communities. Or at least is what we say to them, and it's working because now 30% of the farmers are female. I'm an associate to Women in Tech, an initiative in the FinTech and InsurTech Spanish Association. And good news in this sector is the role women are playing at FinTech startups, with 25% of them led by females, well above Europe's average of 20%. I founded Women in Blockchain Spain back in 2017 because I was curious about the lack of women in this starting ecosystem. We all recognize it was just about communication. The moment they heard about the meetup, over 200 people signing, most of them women. And when the organizer of a crypto event in my co-working pointed out to me that the lack of female attendees, I asked him how many had he invited. See, there's a lot of work to be done before taking for granted or contact lists include a balanced amount of both genders. We all need to bring this awareness to our everyday life. Every time I have the chance to make my male and even some female colleagues notice that their behavior is unwittingly, but nevertheless harmful for the sake of gender, I do it. And quite often, language is the vehicle to social conditioning. And in my opinion, one of the strongest yet invisible ways of preventing us from realizing such unintentional behaviors, from men don't cry to little girls of sugar and spice and everything nice, from calling our female selves doctora or profesora, but insisting on using la ingeniero or la arquitecto, to getting married and changing our father's last name for that of our husband's father. And at the end, nobody can find you in the social media. Balance is everywhere. I was able to work full-time in this beautiful but intense project because my personal life allowed me to. And my 3 daughters are already grown-ups and my parents are not yet too old. Before EthiHub, I've been a freelance industrial designer, mother, teacher, artist, writer, organic coffee producer, head of department at the Secretary of Economic Development in Chiapas, ceramist. I think of my brain as a warehouse, laboratory, greenhouse, a place to put ideas, concepts, seeds to investigate, experiment, and sprout them into this humus made of practical, professional, and personal experiences. I consider constant learning a must. New knowledge, people, and countries to add wider perspective to that we already know. I learned about blockchain while editing the white paper for EthiHub, and it was like love on first sight. The moment I got a glimpse of its powerful ability to transform our world, I went head on this project. A formidable global solution is not on the hands of other people. We are able to take action and change the world. There's time to do everything, but of course, not all at once. So I live my life, say, in tranches, each one according to my circumstances. And I think as a result of them all, I have now found my true ikigai. This is a Japanese expression concept I love very much. That is my life's perfect balance between what I like to do and I'm paid for, what I'm very good at, and what is also good for the world, my purpose in life. And this purpose makes me wake up every morning to meet my daily challenges together with a team that shares my dream. I invite you to find your purpose in life, looking for ways to integrate some of the sustainable development goals into your personal and professional activities, because sustainability is not a trend, it's the current innovation wave. And now, with COVID changing many of our plans, it is paramount to build sustainable solutions for the global problems we are facing. It is a good time to think about what really matters: clean air, clean water, healthy food, love, back to the basics, because we all share just one planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabriela. Again, had some problems with my sound. And I want now to give Carla Tanas the possibility to start her presentation for the next minute. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you very much, Carmen, and thank you to all the organizers who invited me here today. They asked me to speak a bit about my story, and that's what I'm going to do. I will just share with you, where I began and where I am today. I don't know about you, but I was one of those who never was decided in which way I was going to go. I was an undecided graduate. I didn't have direction, in which, one of those that was good at many, but didn't excel at one thing. By the time I graduated university, I got into business administration. My dad said, you know what, if you can't do anything, at least have a business background, and that will be the way that whatever you decide to do will take you there. I didn't think much of it then, and I did it, not really knowing why I should, but I just did it. By the time I graduated university, I had to come home quickly because of personal reasons. At that point, at 20 years old, we had a retail store. And I saw an opportunity in a retail store with just some snack foods that I thought that we could do a lot bigger than what this is. Now, this is me at 20 with a family that's quite traditional in the way that there is hierarchy and the way things work. And of course, the men tend to have more of a say because somehow they know better. So a young 20-year-old girl comes to tell everybody that, it's time to, there's opportunities here, let's take things around. A lot of them disagreed, a lot of political debates between my family. At that point, I decided, you know what, let me just go out and try, I'll do it. Before I knew it, within 2 years, we turned the retail shop into a catering business. But of course, the political discussions continued. So I decided, you know what, I'm getting out of family politics. It's better I start my own thing. So I decided I needed some time off. I decided I was going to travel. I took a ticket. I told them I don't know when I'm coming back, but I'll let you know. So I just left and I went to travel a bit. And after some months, I came back and I said, you know what, I want to do something that's a little more dealing with people and be out there. And I want more relationships, because I feel that's the way for growth, relationships. It's constant learning. So I got interviewed. I got interviewed by one of the leading communications company, got a job there. Within 3 days, I said, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to be part from a 9-to-9 job. This is not me. This is not what I want to do. Right away, I was honest to myself, then I moved forward. So at that point, I said, you know what? Some friend called me and said, there's a private jet. He was just talking to me randomly about a friend of his who has a private jet, and they wanted to host, they wanted a hostess for the private jet. I said, I'll do it. He said, will you? I said, yeah, I'll do it. So at that point I said, I'm going. I got my training without realizing that training brought me many, many learnings that I never knew would take on in my business career. First of all, how much better can you learn about crisis management than through the aviation industry? How much better can you learn about communication efficiency than through the aviation industry, when that's where, where every second counts on an airline? But my mind never went there. So that's to say how experience matters. And the truth of the matter is, taking my first experience with the retail and then taking this experience, I realized that nobody could turn your problems into opportunities except for yourself. So you have to strive your own way and make that decision from the very beginning. So I continued. And then after doing 3 months of the aviation, 4 months of being a hostess, I said, you know what, that's it for me. I needed to move on to the next thing. I moved on. So I decided now I'm going to do my own events company. This is time for me to do something different. This is a great space for me to be in relationship with people. I'm going to do that. And so I did. And of course, I had some family politics again, but that was okay. I moved on and I said, I will do it, even though I didn't have experience. So the next conference comes along and I introduce myself as the best event manager there is. Please welcome me onto your event. After a few slaps in my face, I managed to get a few jobs, and that started to build my experience and built even more my confidence in what I was doing. And as I moved forward, I then realized that there were some opportunities because there were some royal families coming to some of the events that I was coming. So I quickly put my mind together, said, how am I going to get there? Build my contact points, got there, and introduced myself as one of the best event managers and got to them and said, listen, here's my budget, here's what I could do for you. And it was a pleasure to meet you. Within the next day, I got a phone call from them and I didn't believe they took on my budget. I was wishing they didn't. I said, how am I gonna manage to do such a thing now? And I put my mind to it and I said, okay, I'll just do it. Overnight, my mind was going crazy, but either way, I decided, I moved forward. And since then, I grew my events company to an events boutique. I was able to sell it off. And within those time, somebody came to me about starting startups and innovation and wanted to do an event. So we started it off as an event. And this was back in 2012. Again, as you noticed, the story in my life is I didn't have a direction into where I was going. Things kind of just trapped in my way and I kept going for it. So I decided that, okay, I'll take this event. And within some time, I realized that there was an opportunity here. There's a need. We're back in 2012, we're in Greece. Youth unemployment is up at 60%. What is going on? There were so many people who came to our event because, we turned around the way the conversation was from a public sector mentality to now it's time to do things your own way. And we built our organization, Industry Disruptors Game Changers. We focused in on 5 sectors, one of them being in the agri-food and innovation scene. The others were clean tech, health tech, creative industries, and tourism. I took on in 2015, I decided I wanted to focus in more and more on the agri-tech space, only because at 2015, I had my child. And I realized that the food system was quite broken and there was not much going on there. There was not much in the innovation scene. A lot that was going on in agri-food innovation was really from the traditional NGO side. And I said, this space, it needs to revolutionize itself. There's no way that we could just bring in funds and then just expect that things are going to change. You really need entrepreneurs in this side. So Future Agro Challenge was then developed. We realized that if you want to change the future of food, you need to bring the problem solvers there. But then we started on a very national level. I mean, we were looking only in Greece because that was where we were focused in. Within 2-3 years, we started getting out into the media. There was so much attention. We had reached 30 countries in 2 years and 60 countries within 3 years and still growing. Our network is now over 60 countries. We are across 5 continents. Our network is really focused on putting the agripreneurs in the front line, but in order to do that, you need a good support system, a good ecosystem around those agripreneurs. And the work that we do is built on creating ecosystems around agripreneurs. So how do you bring the stakeholders to come together? How do you get them to work together? And that's really coming down to the fundamentals of human relationships and building collaboration. One of the fundamentals that we started to look more and more and realize that, for us, the philosophy is ag and agricultural innovation comes first. There's so much going on in synthetic biology, and that's fine, and we're not here to determine yes or no. But if you really want to revolutionize agriculture, it really has to start from the very local level. And this is where the work is done. So we've been working in 60 countries at the very local level, working with agro hubs, partnering across the globe. As such, we work with our local competitions. We run competition, succeed to understand and find who are those agripreneurs at the very local level that are doing well, bring them up to the global level. And since then, have been running our Global Agripreneur Summit annually. Every year, this is a traveling summit that travels across countries, across continents. So we started in Colombia, we went to South Africa, we went to Turkey, we went to Greece, where unfortunately now with COVID, it has slowed down, and we're in discussions for India next year. Now the question, this is where all the network comes together, where we bring our impact makers around the world, our startups around the world, investors, mentors, and everybody comes to speak about how do we bring agri-food innovation, really by bringing the farmers' voices forward. And within the farmers' voices is really understanding all those generational changes. And one of that comes to the very much factor of gender equality. You know, in agri-food innovation, you really have to come and discuss about land usage, generation changes within how do you deal with hierarchy in these rural areas? You know, how do you connect the rural area with the startup scene? How do you connect the rural area with innovation? And this is a lot of the work that we're doing at the very local level in those 60 countries, by also being a space of transfer of knowledge where we could bring regional transfer and case studies from one region to the other. Our fundamentals really are integrating in order for the food supply chain to solve, you really have to bring all cultures into it. At the moment, we realize that we are aware of over 12,000 edible species, and our world menu only consists of 30 edible plant species. That's less than 1% of where we could go with our world menu. And the potential is only there if we bring all the players together, because every country has a solution, a different one, and every piece of this, everybody has a piece of the puzzle. So in order for this to work, we all have to work together. And I think by being a female, and all us females in here, being multitaskers, relationship builders, this is the space in how we could bring it all together. So thank you for having me here. This is my personal story. I've learned a lot along the way. I would just like to leave by telling you, understand who are you being, that your reality is. It's up to you to be whoever you want to be. So make your reality by who you want it to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carla. And now it's time for Maitane Alonso. Please, you can start whatever you want.
Hello, yes, I have well, I'd like to, first of all, I'd love to thank all of the organizers for having me here today. It's an absolute pleasure to meet all of you. I'm so excited to be hearing so many inspiring stories. And I would love to share my own story and how these past 5 years have totally changed my life. So my name is Maitane Alonso Monasterio. I'm a researcher, founder and CEO at Innovating Alimentary Machines, and a medicine student at the University of the Basque Country. So, you know, some years ago when I was a child, I was never the kind of child that wanted anything to do with science or with research or anything like that. And I think that that is because we've got science so stereotyped. Whenever we think of researching at the lab, we think of a man with white hair that won't come out of the lab, even if the lab is burning. So that's so far away from the realities in so many women, and so many young people are researching with innovative ideas that could even change the world. So I've always thought that all of us have a small researcher inside us. And let me tell you why. Whenever I see children, I have a 9-year-old sister, and she's always trying to create, trying to innovate, trying to build something to, you know, make just whatever's happening better. However, as we grow older, we're losing this, you know, this passion for improving, this willingness to learn. And I think that's really, really sad. I was extremely lucky that my family helped me maintain this passion for knowledge, this curiosity, we could say. And this story is truly, truly strange. But I started researching 5 years ago because my father, he loves to do barbecues. And it's 5 of us at home, but he cooks as if he was going to invite the whole city. And we always had so many leftovers. And I'm sure this situation has happened to most of you. So I started researching, and I'm not sure if you know about that, but at this moment, we are wasting 30% of the world food production. And this data is even more scary if we think that every 5 seconds, there is a child who dies of hunger. And I was having this issue in my head, and I also didn't want to eat my father's hamburger, but that's a whole other issue. And I decided to start researching because I thought that the food industry needed a more sustainable alternative. Also because when we think about this problem, the food waste, it's a more complex problem that we can imagine. We're not just wasting food, we're wasting water, we're wasting very important resources. And this past 22nd of August, it was the day in which we finished the Earth resources for this year, and we still keep taking even more away. So I was really concerned because we don't really have another planet to live in. So we better start taking care of the one we have already. And with these ideas in mind, well, what I have done is I have invented a new food preservation method, which is called packaging with treated air. And this new food packaging method doesn't only just lengthen the food expiry date, but it does so in a more sustainable manner, reducing the use of plastic that we have in the industry and in homes. And also it's faster, cheaper, with less energetic use. And also it uses less chemical substances that if we abuse of them, they may have harmful or even unknown effects in our health. And well, I was just the first machine I built. I did it with absolutely no resources. I started researching when I was 16. I had no knowledge. I had nothing. And I only had the passion, which is the thing that it's left nowadays. And the first machine I built was some plastic boxes, some parts of a window that was broken in our houses, a vent I took from my father's computer. I really hope he's not listening to us right now. But and when I plugged the machine in, you know what? It didn't work. I mean, how was it going to work? I had absolutely no knowledge. But the most important thing is that behind a project, behind an entrepreneur, there is constance, there is effort, and above all, there is passion. So I kept on learning, I kept on trying, and finally the machine worked. That would be meaning, for example, to use in our homes. So it's like really cheap, easy to use, really small. So my grandma has one in her kitchen, like in one of these wardrobes, and she just puts food in the Tupperware we use in our daily life for 5 seconds, and then I can take it, for example, to university. And then there are also other machines now because, one day I was walking down the street and thought that near supermarkets, near restaurants, there are so many food leftovers thrown every single day while there are people suffering. So it's in our hands, it's in our everyday actions to try and help this worldwide problem. And with that in my mind, I built a more industrial machine. And also with this whole situation, I built another machine thought for hospitals. Why? Because imagine, since the food gets cooked in the kitchen at the hospital until it reaches the patient, they go through many places in which any microorganism can attach and cause disease. And even more, if we take into account that microorganisms present at hospital may be more resistant to actual treatment, and patients are more in danger. So in order to try and minimize these type of diseases, we have designed another machine. So why did it all happen? Well, once I built the machine just to stop eating my father's hamburgers, we were using it at home. And it was because my families and my friends support that I decided to present it to some scientific contests. First, like in a regional level, then the machine got some prizes. We went to the national one. And finally, we ended last year in the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair, which is like the world's final. And for me, it was so amazing to see thousands of young people and so many women working to build a better and more sustainable future for all of us. Under the project got the second Grand Award for microbiology and the first for sustainability by the Arizona State University. And that's why the MIT will have an asteroid named after me. But the most important thing for me is not the asteroid, is that the asteroid gave me a microphone. For what, you may ask? Well, So many times when we talk about women in different areas, let's say science, research, technology, in the food industry, they say, well, we have no role models. But we actually do. There are so many amazing women working in all areas, and all they need is a microphone to have their voice heard and support in order to have no limits to fulfill all their dreams. You know, the first time when I built my company this past January, I built it because so many times we have ideas and we think, oh, it's not going to work. It's definitely not going to work. So we put it in a notebook and we put it in our houses and we don't share it with the world. And I think that it's important not only to share it, but to try and have a positive impact in our society. And in one of the first meetings I had, they asked me, what do you want to be when you grow older? And I said, I want to be happy. Everyone laughed. But for me, following your dreams is not just some Mr. Wonderful sentence that, well, follow your dreams. No, it's a lifestyle, and all of us should follow it because I truly, truly hope that I get to see the day in which we don't have to repeat this anymore. But science, research, you know, no one should have any limits because research is for everyone and it has no gender, it has no race, and it doesn't have an age, neither has it limits. So it's in our hands to build a better future. And finally, the message I want to send all of you is that the first answer we're going to receive, it's no. We're going to get rejected so many times. The first answer will always be no. But if that's what you're passionate about, if that's what's truly okay in the world for you, if that's what you love, you got to keep fighting. You got to keep fighting because one day it will be a reality. And this day, I can say that I wake up every day to find the dreams of a little girl, of a little Maitane, come true every single day. And I truly hope that one day this doesn't get called lucky, as my colleague Gabriela said, and that one day that is our lifestyle. So thank you so very much for listening to me and for sharing our time with us here today.
Thank you, Maitane. Thank you to all of you. I think you have been so much enthusiastic that at least me, I feel much able to do whatever I want. But obviously, there are several questions we could discuss, not only about your personal experiences, but also about your thinking about what are the reasons why these your experiences are not as common as they should be among women. And I have a first question by Sarah Bell, who is addressed to Carla. She says that, or she asks you if you have met Jean Craigie in Scotland. She runs the Rural Youth Project, and she, Sarah, feels that your missions are really sonotic.
I would be happy to meet with him. I didn't hear the name. Was it Sarah?
So the name of the person who is attending the meeting is Sarah Bell, but the name of the person in Scotland is Jane Craigie.
No, Jane Craigie I have not met. I don't know which, maybe unless I know of the initiative and I don't know the name. But Sarah Bell, it'll be a pleasure I could send you my contact and you could put us in touch if you believe that there's room for collaboration.
Of course, the same from my part. I think when we are working on impact, there is no competitors, but collaborators. We need, as Maitane said, to join, and as Carla said, to join the pieces of this puzzle to solve something for everyone.
Thank you. And there's also sort of a reflection about, you have been talking about the need for women to feel really able to do whatever they want. And do you think that even if we feel that we are able, we still find barriers that make it really difficult to get the results we are probably able to get? What do you think about the idea of glass ceiling or sticky floors, this kind of invisible barriers which make it really difficult for us to get our aims. Maybe a question for any of you if you want to get started. I don't know, Marina, or what's your opinion
Yes.
about this silent glass?
Yes, I think there are many barriers for us, and the proof of that is that only 29% of members of boards are female in Europe. So, and I think there are many barriers, such as, for example, motherhood. Because many women decided to have a shorter journey, shorter working periods, and also because they decide to do the care work, the domestic work. I mean, we don't have many times we don't have any choice, so it's not that we decide to do it, and it's that we have to do it. And also I would say that gender stereotypes are still there. So many leaders or many presidents of companies decided to give the possibility to men instead of women. So I think we have still these stereotypes, unfortunately.
Yeah, Gabriela.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on the positive side, because that's my way of thinking. Of course, there are barriers. Of course, nobody will deny the huge work we still have to do, and they are doing from the European Parliament and everybody else. And we are moving forward because we are better than hundreds of years ago and better than 50 years ago. But evolution is not linear. It's like 3 steps forwards and 2 steps back. 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. So it takes time. And I think we keep working on erasing, on breaking these glass ceilings and that. But I would go to the base. It's very difficult to start anything, either you're a man or woman. It's not easy. So we have to keep in mind that there's a lot of hard work to do, not because you're a woman, because it is very hard to build something. So I would invite people to think about these numbers. Over 80% of the startups fail before the first 2 years. That means it doesn't matter if they are men or women. It's just statistics about the intent to do something that doesn't go on. No? So I would invite people to build and to grow. I like this. I will do the translation from Spanish. In spite of, instead of thanks to. Most countries are not making easy for women to do business, to do startups, or for men. But we have to think this mindset. We have to achieve things in spite of, not always thanks to. But we can build a network to make it thanks to, of course. That's it.
Thank you. Do you want to add anything to this reflection?
Sure. I mean, I could piggy off of what Gabriela is saying, and I think the bottom line is really how your decision towards barriers. So if you want to choose barriers and as an opportunity, or barriers as a barrier, as every entrepreneur, if you look at, with every barrier, there are opportunities out there. And just like the crisis, just like COVID, just like every situation, you really need to take a look to it. And there's no doubt that females do still succeed in these barriers ahead of them. And we see that in the day-to-day. And I see that even in the agri-food scene, especially in the rural areas, you still have perception of woman versus male. But it's your choice. You could change it with a sentence, or you change it with the way you address it. You don't have to fight it, but you could find an opportunity of how every step matters. So, I mean, instead of trying to take it from 0 to 100, let's take step by step and see where the opportunities are.
And Maitane,
yes. So I would also like to add something. So the glass ceiling is something that's absolutely real. So I can see it every day. For example, in my university class, when I go to class, most of us women. However, when time goes by and people start working, most people in the places of power, they are men. And there aren't even so many men in our classes. And this is particularly changing so much with the new generations. So as my colleagues are saying, the only way to make this path is by walking step by step. And all of us together. I read recently a study saying that people were given to CVs, so like to curriculums, in order to choose who should get the promotion. And both of them were the same one, and only the name and the gender changed. And most of people said that it should be a man because of characteristics like leadership and everything. And to the woman, they said that she was just angry. I mean, we're not angry. And what I want to say is that we should never let someone tell you that you cannot be a great mom, a great family member, a great friend, and also a great leader, because we can do all of them. And I think that we should support each other, both women and men, as a society, in order to start taking the steps into a better future for all of us.
Thank you. And one more question. You have mostly mentioned the fact that lack of self-confidence may be a problem for women. That means that perhaps some of these barriers are not outside, but inside. It means that if you can get rid of these barriers, you can succeed. But don't you think that there are also a lot of outside barriers that maybe impose this feeling that you are not good enough? For example, in the case of Maitane's last comment, if you try to get a position and you systematically are assessed as worse than a man, maybe you at the end feel that you must be worse, but it's difficult to think that most people are wrong and you are good unless you get this kind of confidence from outside. What do you think, that barriers are mostly inside you, barriers are created outside, and maybe they help to build your own psychological barrier? I don't know if my question was clear. Or... Oh, maybe, yes? You're silent.
Yeah, so I think that there are so many barriers that they are absolutely everywhere. So on the one hand, there are the inside barriers. I have read some studies saying that little girls do worse at math because since they are small, we start telling them, like directing them towards other places, towards maybe more assistant relating jobs or stuff like that. I don't think that now, just because there are so few women, literally all the women should start doing those jobs, because that's not the point of it. The point is that whatever you are, whether you are women, whether you are young, whether you are from wherever, you should have no limit in order to fulfill your passion or your passion. And here I see a double standard. So I've lived it really, well, sadly, lots of times in my life, not just because you're a woman, but also because you are young. I've heard so many times, you know, the Nini generation, that young people don't study, don't work, that they do nothing but party. And there are, I truly mean so many young people and so many women with amazing ideas, that I think that one of the first steps is showing these role models, because for little girls it's so difficult to want to be something they haven't even dreamed, to want to be something they haven't ever seen. So I think that putting this leader woman nearer the children could change, would, well, start changing the system. Since the base of every single system starts in education, at least from my point of view.
Thank you.
I would say, if we speak about women, we have to take in account the whole world. And there are huge difference between being a woman in Europe or being a woman in a developing world, because we have barriers. I mean, physical barriers because our condition, or especially these social barriers, as I was saying in my time, that this conditioning that is not conscious, that we say, the way we use the language is conditioning the girls to make them believe they are good at what we believe they are good at, not letting this open. But there is a minimal base that we have to achieve for every woman in the world. That is the freedom to decide and to open. Because if you're in a country, I mean, it's not the same to challenge ideas in the middle of Madrid and be shouting there's a woman at 10 o'clock in the night that being in India. You know, it's absolutely different. So being difficult for some women and easier to others and lucky for someone else, let's never forget that we have to think of solutions for all the women, and that no one is left behind, because our solutions may be like hurting to hear for people who doesn't have the basic means to say, try anything you want. Yes, but you cannot get out of your house alone. So try doing something from that starting point. No, so I think let's try to keep conscience about them all, and trying to erase these barriers from, I mean, what we take for granted in the countries we live.
And Gabriela just inspired me so much and reminded me of a story that my mom told me once. She's one of my role models of how one of the most important things is not just the power to decide, but to know what you want. Take, for example, a little girl in a school. She gets told to draw something, and she starts drawing, and the teacher says, no, you have to draw a flower. She starts painting a blue flower, and the teacher says, no, it's gotta be red. Once she starts painting this red flower, and then this little girl changes school. And in this new school, she gets asked to draw something. Every children start drawing except her, because she doesn't know what to do. She's been told not to know what to do. And I think that that is one of the biggest problems we have nowadays, that people don't know what their passion is. And in order to pursue it, first of all, we should let them explore themselves, never lose, this curiosity, and just support them in whatever their final decision is.
Marina, and then Carla.
Yeah, I would like to say that I agree with all of you. I think there are not only outside barriers, but also inside barriers, as I was trying to explain in my intervention. So I would say that that I read somewhere at UN Women, according to UN Women, young girls that at the time of when they are 8 or 10 or something like that, they start thinking that they can do everything. So while young boys, they think they can do whatever they want, young girls start thinking when they are very, very little, that they cannot, because we are constantly being judged. Since we are very young, since we are a child. So and I read this book. I don't know if you have read it. It's called Leaning, from Celie Sandberg. She's CEO, or she has a high position at Facebook, and she said she asked this question to women: what would you do if you weren't afraid? So imagine yourself if you weren't afraid to, take that step, or take that opportunity, or, sit at the table, or do whatever you want to do. Because sometimes the first barrier, or maybe the only barrier, is within yourself, right? So, I just remember this sentence about, what would you do if you were afraid? From now on, every time you feel afraid, or you feel this lack of commitment, of confidence or something, just try to work on that, and try to stop being afraid, and go ahead with every possibility, every opportunity you have in front of you.
I think Carla also wanted to.
Yeah, following what all the other speakers are saying, I think there's definitely barriers on the outside and there's barriers internally there, but there are also facts that we have to take into consideration. We're walking into a future that is unknown. So it's really there's paradigm shifts coming ahead of us, and it's accelerating at such a fast pace. So yes, there is room, and we have to have role models, and we have to have, we have to guide the woman, and we have to, but at the same time, we don't have to anymore. We should just, allow to just listen in and allow room for each person to figure it out on their own. So I think the unknown creates the fear, which creates the barriers. So I think in this essence, when we want to create role models, I agree, yes, we do need role models, but in paradigm shifts that are changing at such an accelerated pace, how do you create a role model for the next 10 years? How do you create this is changing at such a fast pace. So I think, in essence, and one of the reasons, and I feel very, it's an opportunity for being a dean at the Innovation and Creativity Center at ACS Athens, which is a K-12 institute, working with young children as well, is looking in, and the importance of being next to them and listening in. It's very important to guide children and listen to where are their passions rather than trying to show them where they could go. It's two different things. And I think more and more we need to listen in rather than try to guide.
And one more question, this time addressed to Marina. Someone asks, whether do you think that quotas work well or not? And she or he adds a reflection from Deb Stevens, who says that to enable young people to achieve big, give each child a bedroom wall for them to express themselves in a way they like. The whole wall. A child will start with small expression of pictures, but pretty soon they will be brave enough to think and design big. Is Marina, please? Yeah.
Okay, now you hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So for the quotas, I think they definitely work. I think that maybe quotas shouldn't be the final solution, but I think they are an important accelerator, 100%. So they accelerate the change. And I think that we wouldn't need them if we live in a perfect world where women and men have exactly the same opportunities, but we don't. So until that, I think that quotas work to compensate that inequality that women suffer. And I can give you two examples. So at the European level, only 29%, as I was saying before, 29% of members on boards are female, are women. And in the case of Spain, this percentage is 27%. But in our country, in Spain, sorry, not our country, but especially Spain, we have what is called these soft measures. That means there are quotas only for public companies, or only recommendation for private companies, and these are measures without any sanction. So that's why we only have 27% of members on board that are women. In the case of countries that have mandatory quotas, such as Belgium, France, Italy, Portugal, Austria, and Germany, they have more than 35% of members who are women on boards. So in the case of France, they have this mandatory quota of 40% of their members on board, they have to be women. So they have achieved a percentage of 45%, sorry, 45% of members who are women. So, I mean, this is an example to show that that quotas work. And without them, I mean, it's not a coincidence that the countries with the highest participation of women on boards have a mandatory quota. In the case, for example, of politics in Spain, yes, we have a mandatory quota of 40% of candidates. They have to be women. So as a result, in the case of the share of ministers in Spain, 42% are women, while 58% are men. And in the case of members of parliament, 40% are women and 60% are men. So, these two examples prove that they work. And I mean, maybe they are not fair, but it's not fair either that without them, women don't have the opportunity to be at those positions.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Maitane wants to add anything.
Well, I absolutely agree with Marina. So quotas are not a definite solution. It's not that 50% of women should be in absolutely everything, because in a, let's say, perfect society, we shouldn't have to use quotas. So every person should be free to find what their passion is and to pursue it. And also, I think that women are, well, about 50% of the population. So yeah, they do deserve the representation, and not just candidates, but the representation they deserve. And well, I think that it's because we have lots of years of history in which they have been underrepresented. But I mean, it's not so hard when building, for example, a panel of speakers, and most of them are men. I mean, was it truly that hard to find a qualified woman? Because the problem isn't that there is not a qualified woman, but we have that it's just easier. So I think that quotas make a help make this process faster to reach equality. And well, I think that that's the way to build a better future for all of us. And before, I was listening to my colleague talk about role models, and I totally agree with her, because I think that it's not that, definitely not that we should be guiding people in order to establish what they should become. And I think that the question that we have here is, who's a role model? Who's a role model? A role model can be so very different. For example, I mentioned before that my role model is my mother. Why? She's not CEO of nothing. She's not, well, she's actually CEO of our house, but well, that's quite a different issue. But she actually left her work in order to take care of me and my brother and my sister. So why is she my role model? She's my role model because she's strong. She's my role model because she found what she loved and she pursued it. She's my role model because every day she wakes up and she lives with her 100% in every single action she does. And that's why what I truly hope that every single one of us has role models, but role models that are passionate about. I don't care what they do. I just care that they are passionate about it. And I think that, women can be so many things. They can be founders, they can be CEOs, but above all, if I were to choose a word for women, I would say strong. And that's what role models are for me, strong and passionate.
Thank you, Maitane. Maybe Carla or Gabriela want to add anything to this question or to this comment?
Well, I think in an ideal world, quotas wouldn't be needed. Mm-hmm. But until we achieve that point, they as Marina said, they will speed it up, because we need to get that balance where nor men or women will think about it. We take it for granted. We need to reach that point, and we need all the help from evolved men and evolved women to raise the children, which are the repercutors mm-hmm. of the ideas, to change the society from within. So nowadays, nobody's questioning about the slavery, at least in Europe, for example. Mm-hmm. So I hope for the point when quotas won't be needed, but right now it's a must, I think.
Necessary. Thank you. And Carla?
No, I just want to say that I agree. It's for accelerating the paces, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And somehow related to this point, and particularly a question to Marina, I'm sorry, to Maitane. And how could you think we can improve engagement of younger women towards leadership?
Well, this question,
it's a difficult
just,
question, sorry.
There's so much to it. I think we've been talking about it during all of this conversation, right? But well, from my point of view, one of the most important things is that we're talking about barriers, internal barriers, external barriers, while as my colleagues have mentioned before, there are women who cannot go out of their houses. There are women who are suffering. So I think that one of the first things to do is achieve equality for everyone. Then I think that one of the most important things and not just for this issue, but in order to build a more responsible world, a more social society, it's education. Now more and more, I think that new generations are so much more concerned with their topics like the environment, social issues. And I think that one of the most important things we're doing at this moment is opening our eyes, because there are so many global issues, gender issues, issues about racism, that before we used to have our eyes closed. And in order to solve them, the first thing is to open our eyes and realize that we have a problem. Then how to make women more involved in leadership. So starting from their education, and not meaning university education, not even meaning high school education, educating as little children, not directing them, letting them free in order to pursue whatever they love. And not just that, but also just letting them be free to believe in themselves. I've seen a situation that worried me so much, and I saw it in the park in my city. There was a girl saying, wow, I'm so smart. And her parents, or well, some adults, they say, yes, you're so pretty. I mean, yes, of course, the girl can also be pretty too, but she's also smart. She's also intelligent, and she can also be, for example, a good person. So I think that we should stop, classifying people into different categories. Just because you're a woman, you don't have to be soft, or just because, well, we don't have to fit into stereotypes that the society sets for us. And then also I think that it's important to start the conversation. So any problems that exist but we don't talk about them, then they almost stop existing, because it's really easy to close our eyes and look to another place and say, well, other people will solve it. But I think that the key is that all of us work together, because the only way to build a better future is that each of us, with our small actions that we think, oh, this won't go anywhere, that's what truly makes the difference. And well, as I said before, I truly hope I'm able to see it in my lifetime, right? To see the change in front of my eyes. But until then, I will keep repeating and repeating until it's necessary, until, well, it's not necessary anymore, that no one should have any limit because of their age, gender, race. And well, I truly hope to live to see that day.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
Carmen. There is, I think there is time for one very last question that I got in the chat. So I will read it out loud myself.
Thank you.
So from Fiorella, thanks for your thought and sharing your experience. In relation to the difference between women empowerment in the global north compared to the global south, do you have any thought of what systemic and state interventions are needed to address the gender gap in the food sector and in other areas of the economy? So it is not addressed to anyone particularly, but if any one of you want to take the word, maybe, yeah, Gabriela.
I'm not aware. I think the question is addressed more for institution. I think we are the women here, the entrepreneurs here. We're not working for institutions, but on my perception of it, there are lots of, I mean, huge and needed changes can be driven from top or from down. We need to start changes on all levels, and I think at the level of laws and enforcement from governments and public policies, there is work being carried on there, but it's not just up to the rulers to say how things should be done, but up to society to meet those needs, those requirements. And I guess it's there, the moving forward, even south or north. But as a society, as Maitane said, it's a work of everybody joining forces to achieve these changes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then just, well, a very last, well, it is an invitation, I would say, from Deb Stevens. She says her company contributes just 5 minutes every Monday to make a difference on a Monday. This follows the UN Global Sustainability Goals, and then she's asking if anyone would like to join. So, so maybe Deb, you can send us your contact or your details, so anyone either from the speakers or the public, I mean the attendees would like to join you. Okay. So we have decided to stop here with the questions in order not to take it too long, and we have now 5 minutes. We invite all of you to go and make a coffee or take a drink, and then be back in 5 minutes, where we will organize small groups to make it easier to do some networking. So both organizers, participants, We Lead Food delegates can interact and hopefully get to know each other. So unless anyone has any other last comment, conclusion, we will, yeah.
I
Carmen?
just want to thank you for inviting me, and all the speakers for the great interventions. I'm in the institutional side, but I think the ideas are really enriching, and they will be helpful for us to go on and try to diminish this big gap between women and men. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you, thanks to the speakers for those great presentations. So if you like, we do like this. We take 5 minutes break, and then we come back with coffee, water, beer. Okay?